Hello, and what do you know? This is the Melvin Live Show. Today, we want to talk about one thing. In my 18 years of being an entrepreneur, I have come across so many of the challenges that I felt that there is a lot to be learned from all these different challenges, and I think you can definitely be able to benefit from it. And so today, I want to share with you the top 7 challenges that I've faced, and also what are some things that I do to overcome those challenges. And in case you're wondering, this show it's about the 1% 1 million all digital business with me, Melvin Tan. And if you haven't already subscribed to the show, please consider doing so, because if you want to follow along in terms of the strategy, the techniques, the systems, the processes of creating a 1% 1 million all digital business, then this show is definitely something you want to pay attention to. Right. And so today it's Thursday, and I wanted to share with you a little bit about my reflection of the challenges that I face in my business. Now, let's face it, all businesses, and I mean all businesses, face some kind of challenges in some way, shape, and form. Now, of course, some businesses would be better able to deal with some of these challenges, mainly because they have the efficacy, they have the resources to be able to overcome that. Now, whereas for small business, and in particular the one person business, some of these challenges might be a little overwhelming, primarily because they are a one person business or they are a small business. So when it comes to doing certain things, there might not be economy of scale. And while it may be feasible to do something, because as a small business, as a one person business, it is difficult to scale. And so, while it may be feasible, it may not be viable. And so, in my years of working as a consultant advising small businesses, some of the one of the major challenges that the these businesses face is in strategic planning. And when talk about strategic planning, you know, don't go away with the idea that you need all this fancy spreadsheet, growth chart, projections, fancy titles, and all that stuff. No, when I talk about business planning, it comes down to there's 7 most basic things that every small businesses must consider. And how I was able to come up with this 7 challenges was primarily because I was at one point in time I was helping small and mid-sized companies to apply for grants and to apply for loans. So we were doing a fair bit of debt financing for the businesses. Now, what happened was when you go to either an institution, a financial institution or a bank or some kind of a finance company and to get a loan, the interest rate will be directly proportional to the level of risk that this institution see of you. So if they assess and they determine that there is a higher chance of you to default on the loan, then of course they're going to charge you a higher level of interest so that they are able to cover their own risk. and and of course the other thing is that the problem with small businesses is getting access to financing. And if you're going to be able to get access to financing, but you are going to be getting you have to pay a higher cost of capital, a higher cost of servicing the debt, that once again it may not be feasible. And so when I work with some of these small and mid-sized companies, what I was able to do was to help them to rethink their business strategy, and with thinking about their business strategy, help them to be able to identify what are some of the gaps that they have in their businesses. And if they were to be able to address or breach this gap, then it mean that they will be able to convince or be deemed as less risky in the eyes of this institution. So today's video, I want to share with you the 7 key things that most small businesses face, including myself, when it comes to our business. So number one, in our business itself as a small business, the number one thing that we all face is what I would call the identity. Now, many small businesses start off because they see that there is a an area that people are making supernormal profits. So, for instance, people see like there is a trend in bubble tea, and they see that people are queuing up to get their bubble tea fix. And so, what they do was that they decide to set up a bubble tea shop. Now, the problem with that is that then they end up being just another bubble tea shop. And obviously, it's just simply not sustainable, not viable. And as a result, that they they get competed out. And in addition to that, customers do not have some kind of loyalty or identity or affiliation to them. To them, those stores are just simply another bubble tea shop. So think about how, if these small businesses were able to be a bit more specific in terms of their identity, like who they are, what do they stand for, what do they believe in, what are their values, that would inevitably very quickly distinguish them from a competitor. So at the end of the day, yes, you may be doing similar things, but the way that you either put together the product, it's different, or the way that the customer or the client experience the product is different, or the transformation that the client gets out of using your product, it's different. So so without that brand, without that identity itself, it becomes very difficult to distinguish you from all the other competitors. And inevitably that leads to a commoditization, and the price that you can charge get pushed down. So if at this point in time you find that you are being compared to another company or another agency or another person, it means that you have not been clear in terms of your identity. Because if you're clear in terms of identity, then really the ability to compare you on an apple to apple basis becomes extremely difficult. And as a result of that, it's them wanting to choose you versus another competitor because of who you are, not just because of your price, not just because of what you do, but it's who you are. And in fact, when I spoke with a an early stage startup recently, an early stage startup CEO differently, and he was struggling to raise funds. And he was sharing with me that at that point in time, he didn't have any numbers to show in terms of projections, in terms of sales, in terms of leads. He didn't have anything to show for at that point in time. And all the numbers that he had were simply projections, estimations. And so when it comes to that stage itself, even if a VC were to invest in that startup, it is not so much about what the startup can do, but more importantly, it's about who the founder is and what makes the founder, what gives the founder that competitive edge to be in this industry itself or to be doing this thing because of who he is or who she is. And because of that, it becomes that identity that the business embodies itself. So if you're struggling with that, one of the first things you want to do is to be very clear in terms of your business identity. And for and to a certain extent your business identity would be synonymous to your individual identity. So what is the identity? I mean, who would you say you are, and what do you stand for? And perhaps one of the most unique way that you could differentiate yourself from the competition is essentially your viewpoint. For example, for me, my worldview, it's essentially revolves around the fact that I am a strategist, I am a creator, and I am also an entrepreneur. And all this comes together with an additional layer of being a dad. That really kind of uniquely separates me from anybody else, right? So you may have someone who is also a creator, but that someone may not be a dad, or that someone may not be a strategist. It may be a creator and maybe a very creative one. But his point of view is about how unique, how awesome you can be. And that's fine, right? Whereas for me, the idea is how I'm able to leverage my skill and my identity as a creator to be able to bring my business into the realm of influence of the people that I want to reach. So number one is definitely identity, right? So let's move on to number two. Number two, it's you can call it the community. Now, when we say the community doesn't only look at the your customers. So the community can be a group of people with similar characteristics and similar challenges, facing similar challenges. So, as an example, you could see it as all these people have got similar characteristics. They are dad with young children, and the challenge that they face it's currently they are all trading time for money, and what they want is to be able to build a business that it's able to generate an income that would enable them to maintain or sustain the kind of lifestyle that they choose so that they can be with their family and yet at the same time to be able to do meaningful work and make an impact on the people that they work with. So, in a nutshell, this will really enable the people to think about who are this group of people, what are the common characteristics, and what kind of challenges do they face. Now, to be honest, in the past, to be able to congregate a group of people of a size of at least 100 or 1,000, that can be quite a bit of a constraint because of the reach that we can have. So prior to having the internet and social media, to be able to build that kind of community, it requires a lot of networking, a lot of going to events, and lots of that. And sometimes it may not be possible, especially if it's going to be a side hustle for this one person business. And for small businesses, it's really difficult because at a point in time, there wasn't a cost effective way to manage or to bring together a group of people like that. And so the logistical nightmare was there. The ability to reach these people was difficult, and it was just really, really tough, right, to say the least. And so that was another part of an issue. And of course, in addition to that, not just looking at people with a similar characteristic facing similar challenges, the other part of the community would be the partners that you can work with, right? The partners, the technology partners, for example. So, for example, for me, I have a few key technology partners that I work with, and in that working relationship, I also help them with their business, and that allows me to be able to benefit from that partnership, and also allow them to be able to win from the partnership that we have. And so that's another group of people. Now, of course, another group of partners or key people that you want to be able to leverage would be people that are in your network. They may not necessarily be a competitor, but they are people who would tell others about what you do, and then to be able to bring your clients to you. So that's another group of people, people who are like your core partners, marketing partners, for example, right? So that it's another group. So when I talk about this community, it's really a struggle for some of us because when I started my business in 2004, to build a community like that requires a lot of logistical um, management and really to be able to reach the kind of level and to able to reach that kind of skill, it was, tough. But this days is different. I mean, I have already built a community in LinkedIn. I am now doing the same on Twitter. And so this has allowed me to be able to think about how I'm able to build a community and to be able to reach people from any part of the world. And yet at the same time, to identify this group of people with a common characteristic facing a similar challenge, right? And so definitely, if you have a product or a product idea and you are building it and you are hoping that at the end of that process of building that product, you want to be able to sell it, but you're scratching your head and asking yourself, like, who can I sell it to? Then definitely you want to look at building a community. And the best way to start when it comes to building a community, it's via social media. And so, some of us may be extrovert and it's easy for us to talk to other people. But for the rest of us, talking to people might be a problem. That's definitely something that I struggle with. And so, in that sense, I rely a lot on social media to be able to do that, right? And certainly, that's something that you can consider. In fact, anybody can consider if all you need is two things: to be able to A, identify the correct group of people, and B, to be able to adopt a service mentality. With these two, you're good to go. All right. And so that's going to be part one of the 7 challenges that I would want to share with you. The 7 challenges that most small businesses, particularly, those one person business face, and myself included. And how do we resolve these challenges? So it's not just, like I said, some challenges can be easily resolved with just a good strategy or a tool, but these are the 7 key ones that many of us as a one person business or a small business struggle with. And if you were able to get over this 7 challenges, then or at least you're able to address 3, 4, 5 of these 7 challenges, then you're definitely going to come up top against the competition. All right. So if you got a question or if you got a challenge that you have been thinking that have been keeping you awake, that you want to crowdsource ideas on how to resolve that challenge, make sure you leave it in the comments and I'll be more than glad to take a look at that. And with that, thank you so much for watching and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye bye.